In Madison, we are not hearing your audio. Madison, we're still not hearing any audio from you. Madison, do we have you on the call? Lauren, are you able to jump in? I don't think we're getting anything from Lauren
Yeah,
or from Madison.
yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren Korshak. I am the Awareness and Translation Lead for Office of Health Equity, and we have Madison Coffey, who hopefully will be able to rejoin the audio soon, but she is one of our Health Equity Fellows who is helping to host this cyber seminar. But before we get started, I was hoping to just do a quick review of the office and what we do. The Office of Health Equity was created in 2012 to ensure that the Veterans Health Administration provides appropriate individualized health care to each veteran in a way that eliminates disparate health outcomes and assures health equity. We have 5 overarching goals focused on leadership, increasing awareness, improving health outcomes, improving workforce diversity, and engaging in data research and evaluation. We focus our efforts on veterans who experience greater obstacles to health that can be related to race, ethnicity, gender, age, geographic location, religion, socioeconomic status, sexual orientation, mental health conditions, military era, and disabilities, amongst other things. And I'm going to encourage you all to visit our website. It is constantly being updated with new information. I'm going to encourage you all to, to stay tuned for a really exciting announcement that is coming up tomorrow. So please do go to www.va.gov/health-equity for that real fun announcement tomorrow. There's also information on other publications, research, our podcast series, and you can sign up to be a part of our listserv if you are not already there, to really keep up to date with what we're doing. Today's cyber seminar is titled Advancing Health Equity Through Inclusive Digital Health Measurement Product Development and Deployment. I did just get a message from Madison that our computer decided to die. So I'm hoping she'll be able to call in for the Q&A, but she is our Graduate Health Equity Fellow and has been intimately involved in this work for our office. So we're glad that she has been a part of this effort. Dr. Sharma is Program Director of the Digital Medicine Society. And our respondent or discussant is Dr. Purnell, who is the Director of Data and Analytics Innovation and is a counseling psychologist at the VHA Office of Healthcare Innovation and Learning. And with that, I would like to turn things over to Dr. Sharma for her presentation.
Great. Thank you, Lauren, and thank you for inviting me today. I'm really excited to share some of the work that we've been doing on advancing health equity through inclusive digital health measurement product development and deployment. My name is Yashoda Sharma. I am a program director at the Digital Medicine Society. Before we jump into the health equity and inclusion work, I want to just give you a quick introduction to the Digital Medicine Society, or DIME. We are a professional research and education society. The mission at DIME is to advance the ethical, effective, equitable, and safe use of digital medicine to redefine healthcare and improve lives. We are a relatively young organization, a little over 3 years old. The work we do at Dime is powered by collaborations with organizations and experts from across the healthcare continuum. And these expertise are reflected in our strategic advisory and scientific leadership boards. At Dime, we pride ourselves in delivering clinical quality work on a tech timeline. And there are 3 pillars to the work that we do. The first is convening a community of Dime members, partners, and experts from across tech and healthcare. And we come together to do research on some of the most pressing challenges that are facing the use of digital health technologies. Through deep inquiry and data generation, we create actionable evidence-based resources. We take our role as communicators and educators very seriously. And through collaboration with thought leaders, we share our action evidence-based resources to help advance the field of digital medicine. Dime sits at the intersection of healthcare and technology. We know historically these 2 industries have existed in silos. And with the advancement of digital technologies and with a passion and part of our mission to advance health equity, we know these industries need to work together. They need to come together and work together, and we help facilitate that. We are not trying to change healthcare with the silver bullet. We do want to start with a new digital tool and help evolve its role in digital medicine. And that tool is digital health measurement. With digital technologies, digital health measurement, there are a lot of opportunities, but there are also risks associated with use. For example, how do we ensure that we use digital measures to improve care without violating privacy? How do we ensure that we take a data-driven approach to public health without facilitating harmful surveillance? And how do we improve access to care and health equity while not exacerbating the challenges associated with the digital divide? One way we do this is through collaborative communities. So collaborative communities are a priority from FDA's Center for Devices and Radiological Health. Dime convened DATAcc, or the Digital Health Measurement Collaborative Community, specifically to bring diverse stakeholders together from across the medical device ecosystem to address some of the most challenging issues facing the use of digital health measurement. DATAcc consists of expertise from organizations across the healthcare ecosystem. So this includes pharma, medical device companies, regulatory bodies, academic researchers, health systems, and of course, patients with patient advocacy and patient engagement groups. Our goal is to foster a diverse and inclusive community to help establish global best practices and to support the advancement of regulatory science and commercial practices that will facilitate digital health measurement with patient-centered care. DATAcc is set up where we have a steering committee. The steering committee identifies a priority, which then results in project work streams. DATAcc is a little over a year old. For our first year, the steering committee prioritized inclusion, specifically inclusion with digital health measurement product development and with deployment, with the goal of ensuring that diverse voices are included in all stages of the product development lifecycle, and that those products reach the populations that can utilize and benefit from them the most. The first step with these projects was to define inclusion. So we started with some basic demographics and some of the parameters that are used by NIH as are defined as underrepresented in biomedical research, such as age, gender, socioeconomic status, educational attainment. And then we layered on additional elements specific to digital technologies, so digital access and digital literacy. So the first project, Driving Inclusion in Digital Health Measurement Product Development, resulted in a toolkit consisting of 4 major elements. The first is the Market Opportunity Calculator, the Library of Evidence, the Digital Measurement Product Development Process, and then a framework for inclusive development. We know that medical device companies, pharmaceutical companies are commercial entities. So while we all know that being inclusive is the right thing to do, many of these organizations have to consider their bottom line. And so we offered them the opportunity to build a business case for inclusion, starting with the Market Opportunity Calculator. In the first step of the calculator, you choose your health condition of interest, and then you choose your inclusion vector of interest. In this example, we have diabetes and race and ethnicity. You then get a readout of the demographics for each race, and you get a breakdown of the population, the US population. And then you get a breakdown for the population size with diabetes for each of these demographics. And you get a disease index. This index tells you the disease prevalence relative to the population size. So for example, if you look at the line for Black or African Americans, the index is greater than 1. And this is because there are more people identifying as Black or African Americans with diabetes than within the general population. In the second step, you get to set your current and future market size. So for example, if 30% of those identifying as Black or African Americans are engaged with your product, but based on this disease index, you would like to increase that, you can, for example, increase it to 65% for engagement. And you can set this for all of the demographic breakdown based on your inclusion vector. Then you set a market value. In this example, we have $150. You, based on the population currently engaged and your projected engagement, you will then get a market value based on each demographic group. In the final step of the market calculator, you have a summary of the market opportunity, and then you get a readout with the change in population size and value based on increasing your engagement or being more inclusive with your engagement. And then the final panel summarizes the current market size and value and shows you the predicted future market size and value. Once you have your business case, then you can jump into the evidence. So the library of evidence shows evidence of being inclusive for specific benefit types along specific inclusion vectors. Some of the benefits are better outcomes, broader usage, strategic imperative, and then these are mapped along the inclusion vector. The library is organized according to benefit and according to inclusion vector. We also have the digital health measurement product development process. And this is modeled after the FDA device development process with specific definitions for each step along the life cycle. And then that takes us to the framework for inclusive development. The framework is a step-by-step guide to apply inclusive elements at each step of the development life cycle. You can start at step 1 with problem to solve and work your way through the entire life cycle to post-market. The framework is set up so that if you're starting with a new product, you can come in at the first step and work your way through, but it's also set up so that you can jump in at any of the steps that may be of interest to you. So for example, if you already have a product, it's not performing as well as you would like it to do, you can then come back to the early user experience testing. The framework is set up for at each step of the process, we start with common problems related to inclusivity, and then we highlight some risk associated with those problems. We then break that step into key steps for inclusion and provide some inclusivity considerations. Each of the considerations are then supported with tools and resources that can guide you to being more inclusive for that specific step of the product lifecycle. And then the resources and tools for each step are organized by step with links to the source resources. These resources are all free and publicly available. We are extremely proud of this toolkit and really excited that they are already being used in the real world. Genentech used these tools for strategic planning. BD used these tools to identify knowledge gaps, specifically using the market opportunity calculator. And AliveCore and Verily have been using the tools to prioritize inclusivity. The second project workstream focused on inclusive deployment of the digital health measurement product. It's one thing to develop or design a product in an inclusive manner, but if the product isn't getting to the people who can benefit from it the most, then it really doesn't matter if you were being inclusive in designing the product. So this toolkit is specifically focused on operationalizing inclusivity and providing tools for those who are giving a digital health measurement product either in clinical care or in research. And there are 3 major components to the inclusivity toolkit for deployment. The first is patients, participants, and communities. The second is on implementing inclusive deployment for staff, and then finally, resources for inclusive deployment. We know patients, participants, and communities are central to success in any healthcare endeavor, or especially in research. And we know that trust is a really big component of success. Trust is so difficult to build and so easy to destroy. And through our work, through talking with patient engagement groups, patient advocacies, and patients, we learned that we should start with communities. So this is a guide for developing community partnerships. The key elements of this guide are how community partnerships can improve long-term outcomes. Then we walk you through key steps for developing community partnerships, detailed instructions on how to do that. And then we offer an example from the American Hospital Association on principles of partnerships, sharing some of the lessons they have learned. The next step with those partnerships and helping to build trust with communities is an intentional engagement plan. So the Guide for Inclusive Engagement outlines the benefits of inclusive engagement. We provide a spectrum on the levels of engagement from notify to solicit to integrate and to support. And then we provide some considerations for developing your inclusive engagement plan. And these are supported by additional resources to supplement developing that engagement plan. Both the Community Partnerships Guide as well as the Inclusive Engagement Guide have what we are calling quick start guides. And so these are just a summary with easy to follow step-by-step instructions on how to develop your community partnership guide, as well as how to develop your inclusive engagement plan. One of the other things that we learned through our work is that there is this power imbalance between patients and participants, or clinical teams, and researchers. And one of the key areas that we wanted to focus on was empowering patients or participants. And so we created the Prepping End Users Workbook. So end user here is referring to any patient or participant or anyone who would be using the digital health measurement product. We start with demystifying the user license agreement by providing clear explanations and examples of the terminologies and clauses that are included with the end user license agreement. And then we provide some FAQs on privacy and security. We know privacy and security are paramount interest, especially with digital tools. And so we provide some questions and answers to help patients or participants better understand the privacy and security involved with digital health measurement product. And then we have an end user bill of rights, which is similar to a patient's bill of rights. Again, walking through participants, walking them through the process of using a digital technology and what that involves. These tools are designed for participants or patients, but they are not directly being offered to patients and participants. They're being offered to patients and participants through the clinical team or the research team. And so we also have the digital health measurement product FAQ and questions to ask. And these can be customized based on what the digital health measurement product that you're using. And so you can provide specific information to your product and then questions and answers that would be specific to using that product. We also have a tool to learn about the context of daily life. And this is some recommendations to patients or participants on the information they should be sharing with their clinical team or their research team, so that the researchers or clinicians can better serve them. So for example, if you are giving a patient a remote monitoring device that needs to be synced every 2 hours, we advise the patient to let you know if their lifestyle is such that they wouldn't have access to Wi-Fi, or if they don't know how to sync a device. So you have that information ahead of time, and so that you can make accommodations to ensure that they can still participate and participate fully. The second major set of tools are focused on the staff, the clinical staff or the researcher staff. With digital technologies evolving so quickly, we know that staff also needs support. And so this workbook provides some tools to help staff in their current workflows. All of these tools were designed to be incorporated into current workflows. They don't replace any current workflows or SOPs, but they serve to supplement the current workflows to be more inclusive. So the inclusive deployment plan worksheet and checklist are generally used for inclusion, not necessarily for a specific digital health measurement product, but just guidance on being inclusive in general. The considerations for deploying a digital health measurement product and the end user onboarding checklist are specific to a digital health measurement product, and they provide assistance for staff with additional guidance and checklists that they should provide to ensure that a participant fully understands what is expected of them with use of that digital health product. We also have a tool called the Digital Readiness Workflow. This tool is an assessment of the patient or participant's digital access, their digital literacy. So it serves as an assessment before you share a digital product with them to better understand their level of access and knowledge. The digital health literacy resources are specific trainings, specific resources to supplement any deficits identified with the assessment workflow. The Guide for Inclusive Communications provides some guidelines for developing clear communications, specifically with recommendations on text and visuals that can be used when communicating with patients and participants. And then the informed consent is the standard informed consent with additional elements to ensure that the consent is inclusive of various populations. So we also have 2 tools to help once the product has been given to patients or participants to ensure that they can fully participate and they can continue to participate. So really important in long-term outcomes as well as retention. So the flowchart provides guidance to support patients over the phone. And the guide provides recommendations for supporting patients or participants in person. And again, this is to ensure that they have the support they need to continue using that product as intended. We also have the resource library. All of the tools that I've shared with you today are represented in the resource library. This is fully curated by specific categories, and each of the resources are linked out to the source document, and these are all freely available. The resource library is also a living document. So as people use this or as new resources become available, we update the library as well as the other parts of the toolkits. We are also extremely happy and proud that this toolkit is also being used in the world. And these are some examples of how these resources have been used with social and community groups. And the resources have also been used with engaging underrepresented patients, specifically from a federally qualified health center with the All of Us research program, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. And this is a fully digital research program, and the community health center has used these tools with enrolling and retaining their patient population, as well as engaging their general patient population. So a couple of lessons that we have learned with developing these toolkit, specifically to ensure that inclusion is a foundation of digital health measurement and digital medicine. We've learned that we need to start with developing digital health products that can serve the people who can benefit from it the most. And so we recommend being specific and deliberate throughout the product development lifecycle. We know that patients, participants and communities have to be the primary focus. We need to build trust by understanding the needs of the people that we want to serve. We also learned that implementation of clinical trials and the use of digital products in healthcare or in research needs to be intentional and focused on inclusivity. And so we need to set up the clinical and the research teams for success with the appropriate approaches for inclusivity. And finally, none of this work, none of this health equity work can be done in isolation. We need innovation from experts across the healthcare continuum. For better health outcomes and health equity, we need all stakeholders working together. So whether it is clinical care or decentralized or digitized clinical trials, we know they are complex. And we know that we need to be intentional with our work as an industry. And finally, I just want to summarize what I've shared with you today. To be inclusive, we can start with the business case. If you're a product developer, you start with the market opportunity calculator to look for potential increased revenue, and you use the library of evidence to show you specific benefits for being inclusive along multiple inclusion vectors. And then you can use the digital measurement product to identify opportunities to be inclusive along the product lifecycle. And then the framework provides the resources and tools to be more inclusive at each of the development process. If you're deploying a digital health measurement, you can also start with the market opportunity calculator to identify the participants, the communities for your engagement, and then use the implementing inclusive deployment tools to help support patients as well as your staff and to empower patients and participants. And then you use the resource library to support your clinical teams with necessary tools at each of the steps. So the work I've shared with you today come from cycle 1 of DATAcc. We recently started cycle 2, and we've started with several new organizations. Our goals for this cycle are to continue to build a robust community. We want to continue to address some of the most challenging issues that inhibit the advancement of digital measurement products. And we definitely want to continue to drive adoption and implementation of the inclusivity toolkits. And then finally, if these toolkits resonate with you, if you are interested in using these, we would love to get feedback on how you're using them. As I mentioned, these toolkits will evolve as more data becomes available, as new resources become available, and we will update this. We will take your feedback to help evolve these toolkits as well, and we would love to share how you are using it to help increase health outcomes and health equity. And then with that, thank you for your time, and I'd love to answer any questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Sharma. I think we'll save questions until Dr. Purnell has given her portion of the discussion, but I'll hand it off to Dr. Purnell very quickly after the introduction. So Dr. Purnell is the Director of Data and Analytics Innovation with the VHA Office of Healthcare Innovation and Learning. She has a primary focus on increasing meaningful use of information to increase access to care, improve equitable outcomes, and improve quality of life. She has a passion for empowerment, equity, and engagement, and has training and experience in individual and systems change, prevention and holistic care, and health communication. Dr. Amanda Purnell has a PhD in counseling psychology from The Ohio State University. With that, I will hand it over to her for her portion of the discussion.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so delighted to be invited to speak and to be part of this. conversation about this incredibly useful resource. There's a couple of points that I think are of incredible value as I think about the utility of this toolkit in actual clinical care and in testing out new technologies to provide value to individuals. So in particular, I'm just thinking about at every stage of a potential project, always thinking first about what is meaningful and impactful and useful to the people who may benefit from a particular effort. So what I really like about beginning with the market opportunity calculator is that prior to asking for the valuable time and energy of users, we begin by clearly articulating and evaluating the value add for that particular area, the ways in which that individuals who might be affected by a particular technology or might make use of a particular technology or digital tool would be impacted by this. So rather than sort of starting with discovery and asking for people's time and energy, we're beginning by doing some initial discovery. So beginning by really presenting, by valuing the partnership with potential users of a new technology. We're saying we value your time so much that we wanted to make sure that we only asked for your time if we felt that it was really going to have a particular value to you. And the very careful, deliberate design for inclusivity at all stages of a particular project. So from the very, very beginning, thinking about thoughtful, equitable, inclusive design, and really helping potential teams to think about all of the ways in which differences may impact adoption, engagement, connection, or ability to make use of any particular tool or technology. So we're all human and we're all doing our best. And I'm sure everybody who's on this call is on this call because they believe very deeply in the value and importance of deliberate efforts towards inclusion and deliberate design towards having impact and equitable outcomes for all potential people. What I really value about a toolkit like what has been developed is that it's walking you through the stages and helping to think about all of the potential vectors that might support or make inclusive design difficult. So as I noted, we're all humans doing our very best. And, off the top of our head, trying to think of all of the ways or things that we might be thinking about, we're inevitably going to miss something. So by having a toolkit like this, we can check off, yes, I thought about a gender and sexual orientation. Yes, I thought about religion. Yes, I thought about cognitive impairment. I thought about socioeconomic status. I thought about digital technology access. It's going to take us through each of these areas in a systematic fashion, thereby sort of alleviating our own anxiety as we are doing our best to develop resources and projects and tools that may have value for users and have an impact. So the beginning with, we're only going to ask for the time of users if we believe it's useful. We're going to intentionally engage and empower all of the stakeholders by then, with the equitable design here of some people will need more supports than others. So as we know, equal is treating everyone the same. Equitable is saying some people need more and some people need less. And so really thoughtfully tailoring the effort such that for those individuals who need more supports, who need more help, who need more information, need it presented in a different format or foundation, that we're thinking about that from the very beginning. And that within our design, we're always bringing in every single person as we discover what might be going on, the experience of the users, the way that it might be utilized, the technology might be utilized. And then as we deploy. So I feel like there's a lot of conversation around kind of reactively assessing things that have already been developed for bias. What I really love about this particular toolkit is let's start from the very beginning with the very first design elements and making sure that from the beginning, all throughout the process of discovery, design, and deploy, that we're carefully and thoughtfully mapping out how might this particular solution be inequitably applied, and how might we avoid or mitigate any differences in how this particular tool or technology might impact the users that are involved. So I love the broad scope of this toolkit, and I love to hear that it's already been in use. And I'm looking for absolutely hearing from VA users who are adopting this so that I can learn more from them, how they're finding value in the use of this toolkit, and then we might apply it to even more projects. So thank you again for that incredible presentation. I'm really excited about this resource and the availability publicly for this resource for many users. So thank you again for allowing me to share some of my thoughts today.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Purnell. Now, field some questions from the chat first before we try to open the mic. So Yashoda, I believe this one is for you. So how much support is required to implement all or part of these tools, and who might provide that support?
So we designed these tools so that anyone can take them right now as the toolkit as a whole and start implementing, or take individual pieces depending on what your needs are, to and be able to use them right away. Most of it is intuitive. However, if you do require any assistance with it, I would be happy to meet with anyone to review them in live to show you how to access them, and then advise you on how to use them. We want to support that kind of use as well. So just feel free to email me, and we can set up a time to chat.
Wonderful. The next question was asking if you might be able to demo one of the tools. I'm not sure we're able to live share, but do you mind dropping the links in the chat to the website, and maybe we can point individuals there to check it out.
Sure. Can do that.
I'll jump to the next question from Dr. Carter. Who in VHA is already using these tools? And have you found that there are any best practices on implementing them?
So maybe Dr. Ernest Moy can speak to this more specifically, but I am not aware of anyone within VHA that is currently using the tools.
Okay, I don't think Dr. Moy is able to unmute for us. Let's move on to the next question, which is also related to using it in VA. Amanda, do you have any context on that and how one might implement these tools in VA?
That's why I made the comment that I did make. To my knowledge, again, the VA is an enormous place. Many things might be happening that are outside my awareness. I would love to partner with anybody who is starting any particular project around the use of technology and wants to make use of this toolkit, and to gather insights as they do so, so that we can help learn and then kind of tell those stories within the VA about how this toolkit is being used. But to my knowledge, it is not currently being utilized.
Wonderful. Dr. Sharma, when did the toolkit launch? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, so we launched these in May of 2022. There on the DIME website, there is also the launch webinar, and Dr. Moy also participated in that. That can give you some more insights onto how the toolkits were developed, and how you can apply them in your work. I am trying to drop the link, but it's not working. However, the links are on the individual slides, so you can also access the toolkits that way.
Wonderful. I don't see too many more questions in the chat. We'll give just a minute to encourage people to do so. Love to field some more questions with our time.
I just want to add that my background is academic research. And I know within research, we talk about health equity a lot. We talk about inclusion a lot. In almost every paper, it ends with the sentence of we need to be better with being more inclusive and bringing more populations to research. But no one or very few people take the extra time and go the extra step of saying exactly how that can be done. And that's what these toolkits serve, the purpose of bridging that divide between we know it's the right thing to do, we should do it, and how do you start doing it? So even if you don't think you have use for these toolkits right now, I encourage you to check them out, and start to use them, because as we build on digital technologies, as they become more integrated into healthcare and research, we really need to start with being inclusive at the beginning of digital medicine, so that we're not, decades into it and decide or realize that, large portions of the populations have been left behind.
Absolutely. Pulling on both Dr. Carter's questions, something that you mentioned about these tools not modifying existing workflows. How do you go about thinking, integrating the tools into existing clinical workflows for care providers?
So one example is the communications, the inclusive communication guide. Um, we all have terminologies that we become very comfortable with within our own bubble of the work we do. So something as simple as that inclusive communication guide just reminds you of the different perspectives that are coming at you. And just because you know something or you understand it in your head, just to remind you, don't take it for granted that that every patient that you will be speaking to understands what you're saying or understands those terms. And as Dr. Purnell said, it really is about the equity of it. And so if you take that inclusive guide to inclusive communications, for example, even reading through it, it will definitely trigger with you some opportunities where you can speak a little bit differently to your patients, or spend a couple extra minutes to adjust the message that you're providing, so that you can be inclusive on various inclusion vectors, and that it just takes those small steps to make some progress.
Absolutely. Another question that just came in: what is the relationship with HIPAA and the scale and scope of this initiative?
So we don't touch on HIPAA. We do in the privacy and security and the end user license agreement, we attempt to explain it a little bit more. But none of this work really touches on HIPAA, or there really isn't a need for it to touch on HIPAA outside of sharing that information with patients and participants and helping to explain it a little bit more.
Got it. You touched a little bit on your academic background. I think this is a wonderful question. Are any of these tools being used in an academic setting for kind of teaching and educating the next generation of healthcare professionals on how to be inclusive in development and deployment?
Not to my knowledge, but I think that's a really great idea. So one of the things that we are doing, as I mentioned with Cycle 2, one of our projects that we will be taking on is adoption and implementation of these toolkits, but then also trying to identify a method of measuring the impact of these toolkits. And so with that, we will be reaching out to some academic researchers to share with them. As you know, we are all in our different silos. And so they might not be aware of it outside of those who are part of the project, might not, it's not widely known in academic circles, but we are definitely making some efforts to share share the toolkits with some academic researchers who are conducting research with digital health measurement products.
I think this last question that just came in, while we have touched on that we don't know that it's being widely deployed in VHA, but the possibility of a sort of dashboard to see where it's being deployed, how it's being deployed, and share those best practices.
Yeah, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. Definitely something that we can work with within the adoption and implementation project work stream for this year. And then I forgot to mention that the data that's powering the market opportunity calculator, it's currently based on CDC, NIH data, as well as US Census data. So it's specific to the US right now. And just to address a couple other the questions in the chat, this is being recorded, and we are going to look to distribute these slides very shortly after we wrap up. Wonderful. Not seeing too many more questions. I want to thank you both so much for your time today and joining us. Dr. Purnell and Dr. Sharma and the Office of Health Equity for facilitating and hosting this panel. Thank you all so much for joining. Hope to see you back for next month's cyber seminar. Thank you, Madison. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. As I close the meeting out, you will be prompted with a feedback form. We would appreciate if you took a few moments to fill that out. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and we hope to see you at a future HSR&D Cyber Seminar. Thank you.